This girl, Samo, is a cute kid. Her parents are just regular government workers. Across the street, there's a boy named Chadjen. They've known each other since they were little. Every morning, Samo used to go to Chadjen's house to wake him up so they could go to school. They were in the same class. 10 years later, when she's in 10th grade, it's the first day of school and things have switched around. Now, Chadjen has to wake Samo up every day. He even tidies up her bed for her. Because they sleep in, they have to hurry to school or they'll be late. At school, the four-eyed kid accidentally got bumped and his glasses fell off. Someone picked them up for him, but he didn't see the face, just a person's back. In class, the popular girls were making a fuss, dividing up the class officer positions. Lily was appointed temporary class president by the teacher. Fa was the vice president, and the other girl, Min Min, was the secretary. You could tell this group was a little off. The class president announced that since it was the first day of school, everyone had to write a letter to the person sitting next to them. The four-eyed kid quickly made friends with the handsome guy sitting next to him. Meanwhile, Samo and Chadjen were running like crazy to school, but they were too late. The school gate was already closed. The head teacher wrote down Chadjen's name and student ID number in the book, while Samo tried to hide behind him to cover her student ID. She called him a dummy because he gave his name and ID when they were already late, and he didn't understand what he did wrong. The popular girls saw the two were late and were annoyed, but when they realized Chadjen was the smart kid who won the citywide academic competition last year, their attitude changed completely. Lily was all smiles and friendly with Chadjen, like they'd known each other forever, but Chadjen stayed cold and didn't care. The homeroom teacher came into the class. Samo couldn't believe that the hall monitor lady from this morning, who caught her being late, was actually her homeroom teacher. It's like out of the frying pan and into the fire. The homeroom teacher told everyone to talk about themselves first, and the first person she pointed to was Samo. She had tried to hide her face with her backpack, but the teacher still didn't let Samo off the hook. After Samo introduced herself, she also got her name written down on the list of students who were late today. When it was break time, Lily's group followed Chadjen around again to get close to him. Seriously, being handsome is such a burden. Samo saw her best friend, who she's played with for years, now surrounded by girls, and it bothered her, so she purposely walked between them, splitting the group up. When she went to the library, Nu followed her. He's sharp and saw Samo writing a letter to Chadjen. She was also holding a bunch of romance novels, so it was obvious what she was up to. This Four Eyes guy wanted to ask Samo for a favor. Four Eyes pulled out a huge pile of letters and told her that this morning he fell down, and some nice girl helped him, but he didn't see her face, only her back. Now, this Four Eyes guy wanted to find that girl, so he planned to send letters to like 10 people, and whoever it matches, it matches. This is not a love letter, but a letter that expresses thanks. Samo agreed to help Four Eyes on the condition that he help her write a letter to Chadjen. And it's just a friendship letter, not a love letter like Four Eyes thought. The two of them successfully made a deal. On the way home, Samo saw that vixen lady walking with Chadjen again. Annoyed, she squeezed in between them, but that girl was determined to give Chadjen her letter. Samo, witnessing this, showed off a poem she had just learned from a book, but then that person called out the author's name. Talk about embarrassing. The next day, Samo practiced before giving the letter to Chadjen, but Tao overheard her. Tao suddenly appeared, startling her, and he made sure to mention that the place where she was standing was actually his house's swimming pool. Caught red-handed, Samo was super embarrassed. She warned Tao not to tell anyone about this. Tao agreed to obey her. He also thought this girl was very cute. During English class, Samo didn't know how to do the work, so she signaled SOS, but Chadjen didn't understand her at all. At the same time, Tao strolled into the class. Because he was late, the teacher asked him to do the exercise instead of Samo. Both of them have poor English skills, so they got everything wrong, not a single correct answer. During break time, Samo had secretly slipped a letter into Chadjen's backpack. With that done, she started to keep her promise to Four Eyes. The two of them went out to the schoolyard. Whenever Four Eyes saw someone with a familiar-looking back, he asked Samo to deliver a letter for him. However, they ended up giving one to a girl who already had a boyfriend. After reading the letter, she immediately gave it to her boyfriend to read. Chadjen, meanwhile, had found Sam's letter. Suddenly, someone came in and announced that there was a fight. Over there, the boyfriend was making fun of Four Eyes and reading his letter out loud. Samo couldn't stand it, so she spoke up to defend her friend, but then they called her tiny. Cal was also there, and she also defended her friend. Those guys were about to lay a hand on Cal when Tao stopped them. Chad Jen saw the crowd of students fighting. He announced that teachers were coming, and the whole group immediately scattered in fear. Cal quickly grabbed Nu's hand and led him away. Four Eyes also realized that the person who picked up his glasses for him this morning was Cal. Back in class, Samo turned around and asked Chad Jen if he had received the letter. He held up a pink letter, but it clearly wasn't the one Samo had sent him. She turned back around, feeling sad. Mr. Yong and Ms. Oh came into the class to deal with the earlier commotion during break time. The teacher was holding a love letter, asking who it belonged to. Nu spoke up, denying that it was a love letter, saying it was simply a thank you note. Mr. Yong listened, but it was like it went in one ear and out the other. He still wanted to find all the love letters that Nu had written. Nu looked over at Samo. Mr. Yong, seeing this, figured out that Samo was Nu's accomplice. He confiscated all the letters Samo had, and then reminded the students that silly romantic stuff like that was against school rules. Chad Jen stood up and objected to Mr. Yong's opinion. Writing letters clearly wasn't breaking any rules. Plus, it was the homeroom teacher's request for everyone in the class to get to know each other. All the students had handwritten letters to send to their desk mates. Mr. Yong was embarrassed, but he still stubbornly refused to back down, so he immediately brought up the students' attitudes, saying it wasn't okay to talk back to teachers like that. Mr. Yong told Ms. Oh to give them a proper punishment. So, after school, 5 of them had to stay behind for cleaning duty. Afterward, Tao went to his dad's swimming pool. His dad was also the swimming coach. He said that tomorrow a new person, a former national champion, was coming, and it was also a chance for him to get revenge for that year. Tao agreed with his dad, and then got ready to continue swimming practice. On the other side, Chad Jen and Samo took a taxi home. Because she was tired from the whole day, Samo leaned on Chad Jen's shoulder and fell asleep, remembering that morning he had stolen the letter Samo sent him from Ms. O's hand. Looking at the girl sleeping next to him, he suddenly smiled happily. Chad Jen received a phone call from his mom saying she would be back tomorrow, but he seemed sad. On Tao's side, he went to the pool, but because he was late, the teacher punished everyone with 10 push-ups. The teacher introduced a new student who was said to be a former national champion, and then Chad Jen appeared, surprising Tao. During the 100-meter freestyle race, Tao told him that the teacher was very brutal, so Chad Jen should be careful. After the whistle, the two started swimming. When they reached the finish line, they tied. The teacher told Tao that being easygoing wasn't allowed, and he had to win. Afterward, Ms. O announced to everyone that there would be a Father's Day activity this Friday, and everyone started discussing it excitedly. Cal shared that her dad was overseas. While Nu was worried that when his dad met the other parents, he would brag about how smart he was and flex his family's wealth. Tao was dreading it because he was always seeing his strict dad, whether at the pool or at home, and now he had to see him at a father's event. Samo was very enthusiastic about participating because for her, her dad was her pride. Only Chad Jen was silent during this conversation because his father had passed away a long time ago. The only thing left between him and his dad were memories. During class, Ms. O asked Lily to return the test to the students. Samo was slowly opening her test when the teacher bluntly said, "You got 1 point, so stay after class to retake it." Chad Jen got the highest score in the class, so he had to help Samo redo the test to improve her grade. At lunchtime, Chad Jen was surprised when his mom came to the school to see him, but then he left because he remembered when his mom had abandoned him and asked someone's family to take care of him. Samo chased after Chad Jen and asked why his mom had come, but she only received an apology from him. The next day, Tao announced to his group of friends that this Saturday there would be a competition between him and Chad Jen, and everyone could come to cheer. On Father's Day, there would be an activity where they present flowers to their fathers. Nu's dad couldn't resist bragging that his son was very smart and had won many awards, leaving Samas. Dad just listening. Nu, helpless, could only shake his head in exasperation at his dad's over-the-top praise. While others were showing off their kids, Samas' dad poured cold water on his daughters because of her extremely poor academic performance. Afterward, the whole group went to tidy up the chairs, And because Tao kept standing near Samo, her dad asked the parents of the group of close friends if their children had ever had a boyfriend or girlfriend. Of course, everyone was closely watching their kids. Nu's dad advised him that when you have a daughter, you have to look far ahead and not let them get into relationships too early. Back home, Samo questioned her dad, asking if he'd said those weird things to the teachers again. Sure enough, that afternoon, Samo's dad had met privately with Ms. Oh and Mr. Yong, asking them to keep a close eye on Samo and prevent any boy-girl relationships. Mr. Yong immediately and strongly agreed with Samo's dad's opinion. He then changed the subject, asking where Chajin's dad's memorial service was being held. He replied that it was on Saturday afternoon at Sisuk Temple. Samo remembered that this Saturday was a swimming festival, where he was competing against Tao. That day, Chajin decided not to compete and instead spent time at his dad's memorial. Meanwhile, Samo was diligently staying up all night to make a banner to cheer on Tao's swimming competition. The next day, the competition officially began. In the stands, the group of friends enthusiastically cheered for Tao, and Samo, with her huge banner, was the most extra one there. When it was time to start, Tao's dad secretly started a stopwatch. When Tao finished and won first place, his dad wasn't satisfied, because with this result, he still couldn't get into the national team, and besides, Chajin wasn't there today, so Tao was just lucky to come in first. The group of friends came to celebrate the victory with Tao. He was very happy that everyone was there to cheer him on, and he didn't really care much about what his dad had said earlier. Afterward, Samo quickly went to Sisuk Temple to check on Chajin, also bringing her friends along to avoid being lonely. Samo went home and decided to make Chajin's favorite dish to give to him, but it seemed a bit off, so she needed her mom's help. At Chajin's house, his mom apologized to him because it was an urgent matter, so she couldn't go to pay respects to his father as promised. Chajin was packing his mom's luggage for her to return to France, but her purpose wasn't just to come visit him. She also intended to take him back to live with her in France. Samo, bringing the food over, overheard their conversation. He really didn't want to go, but she wanted to take care of his future, so she forced him to go with her. Remembering the past, his mom had told him to go swimming and have fun, and that she would pick him up in the evening. But he waited and waited, and the person who appeared was his dad. Chajin asked his dad to go back to his mom's house because they were divorced. His dad promised that every day he would come to watch him swim and take him home, but then one day he didn't come anymore, and he also knew the truth that his dad was no longer alive. Back in the present, Chajin's mom told him to think again. His dad had left behind so much debt, and she had to raise him and his younger brother alone. If he didn't decide quickly, she would force him to go. She had also already done the paperwork, and all that was needed was a signature, which made him angry because his mom hadn't asked for his opinion. He also added that he had goals here. He wanted to pursue medicine, so he wouldn't agree to go to France with his mom. Samo saw the tension between the two of them, so she left the food in the yard. A little later, Chajin went outside and saw the food container. He brought it inside and opened it, finding Samo's note inside, tasting her steamed eggs. He remembered when his dad used to make this dish for him. His dad also told him clearly that from now on he wouldn't be living with his mom anymore, so he should decide who he wanted to live with, but he wanted to live with his mom more. Samo, at home, kept thinking about him going to France. The next morning, the group of close friends saw pictures of Chajin and Tao on the school bulletin board, and there was also a 100-meter race with tons of prizes. Kao and Nu noticed that Samo's behavior was a bit strange today. She also told them about how her friend had a best friend since childhood, but now he had to go abroad. Kao immediately said to give that friend a really meaningful gift before he left. The principal announced that there would be a 100-meter race for everyone, and the mascot for this activity was a bear, and the person inside was none other than Chajin. Afterward, the class president told everyone that the prize money for winning this race was 1,500 baht. Hearing that, Samo remembered that she needed to give a meaningful gift to Chajin, so she signed up to race, but coincidentally, Kao also wanted to race. So the two of them would be rivals until the end of this activity. Nu and Tao didn't know who to cheer for. Chajin advised Samo to withdraw because her legs were too short. How could she run? Afterward, the two of them went to stretch and prepare for running practice, and Chajin had to go home to meet his mom. As soon as he entered the house, he saw all. The French university papers his mom had prepared on the table, making him extremely upset. Meanwhile, Cal was still looking down on Sama's short legs. While running, the two of them accidentally tripped and fell, so they were taken to the infirmary. Cal got bandaged by Hong, a volunteer assistant. After talking for a few sentences, it seemed like he liked Cal. Tao took Samo home. Chad Jen, taking out the trash, also saw the scene. Samo went inside and met Chad Jen's mom, who was sitting and talking with her mom. She overheard that his mom would take him to France in the middle of the semester. Cal was talking to her dad. Her dad was about to return to the country, so she also really needed the prize money from the race to buy her dad a gift. But with these injured legs, it was hard to even walk, let alone run. So, the next morning, Nu asked Samo to give the prize to Cal because that money was very important to Cal. He also asked Chad Jen to be Samo's coach, so she could win and give that gift to Cal. Samo overheard the entire conversation. She also didn't know if she should give it to Cal or not because she also really needed this money to buy a gift for Chad Jen. Chad Jen advised her not to think too much because it wasn't certain that she would win. So why was she already thinking about splitting the prize? Afterward, he patiently instructed Samo on the smallest things. He told her to keep her balance and run at full speed. Only then could she beat those long-legged people. Samo asked him how to run at full speed. Chad Jen told her to remember the memories that made her angry, like the time that dog stole her fish balls and she chased it to the end. The next morning, the race took place. As soon as they arrived, the group of friends had already prepared a "Wow, oh my God" chant, making Samo embarrassed for her group of friends. She started the race. On the track, there was also the mascot of the competition. Samo thought the person inside was Chad Jen, so she was very motivated to run. The two of them looked at each other and ran happily. She remembered the dog stealing her fish balls and sprinted to the finish line, winning first place. But the person in the costume wasn't Chad Jen, it was Tao, because Chad Jen was now in the teacher's office talking to someone. His mom was urging Chad Jen to go to France, but he still didn't agree. She then let him finish the 10th grade here to say goodbye to his friends. On this side, Samo received the prize and then gave it to Cal, but the harsh truth was that it wasn't prize money. It was a discount coupon. The group of friends immediately came up with the idea of pooling their money together so Cal could buy a gift for her dad. After that, the group of friends also went to choose a gift for Cal's dad. When Cal's dad received the gift, he was very pleased with it, and the group of friends also stood outside to congratulate them. Meanwhile, Chad Jen's mom was still persuading her son to go with her to France. Samo, at this moment, saw Chad Jen and his mom preparing their luggage to get into a car. She quickly ran home and asked her mom if she had any souvenirs to give to Chad Jen. Remembering she had the running medal from earlier, Samo rushed out to give it to him. But when she got there, it was too late. The taxi had already left. Chad Jen's voice from behind made Samo happily turn around. Turns out he hadn't left yet. Just now, Chad Jen had talked to his mom. He had refused to go with her to France, but this time she made a condition. She would let him study here, but he had to get into the top 1 university in the city. Otherwise, he had to immediately return to France with her. Just like that, Samo and Chad Jen were already in 11th grade. Her mom and dad asked her if she had decided on a major yet, but she wasn't very interested. As for Chad Jen, he was already studying medicine. What was there to plan? You only sign up when you are a senior. In the morning, Nu pulled out a box of medicine to take. It seemed like he had some kind of illness, so when he saw Cal, he startled and hid it. During class, the teacher announced that the school was preparing to hold a play soon, and the class's story would be Manny Runs Away from the Sea. Butterfly. Hong said that this year they would do it in a new, very diverse way. First, for the female lead, the mermaid, Hong immediately chose Cal. Next, for the male lead, the teacher pointed to Chad Jen. Finally, it was time for the sea butterfly role, but no one raised their hand. Samo asked Tao. The sea butterfly is a giant who transforms into a beautiful girl to compete with the mermaid from Manny, right? Maybe she has to be even more beautiful than the female lead. Hearing that, she raised her hand to take on the role of the butterfly. Later, while talking to Chad Jen about why no one in the class chose the sea butterfly role, Samo found out that it was actually the villain, but it didn't matter. She was still very excited about it. The next morning, Nu forgot to bring his medicine again. His grandfather brought it to him. But he forgot to bring his phone to call him, and it was during class time, so the security guard wouldn't let him into the school. Luckily, Cal was there, so he asked her to take it to Nu. She asked him what illness he had, that he was taking medicine for. He hesitated and didn't want to answer. At the same time, the cool group of friends arrived, and the whole group discussed the play. So Cal completely forgot about asking Nu what illness he had. Afterward, the teacher asked everyone for their input on the play. All of Samo's requests were accepted by the teacher and Hong, but the sea butterfly role still had to remain the same. To prepare for the event, Cal asked Samo to collect the class fund money for her. After collecting it, Samo also carefully put it in her backpack. Backstage, everyone had changed into their costumes for a rehearsal. Nu noticed that Hong was being overly attentive to Cal. He was feeling very jealous of Hong. After the rehearsal, Samo discovered that the bag of class money was missing, and she told Cal. Cal was extremely shocked and raised her voice, making everyone around here, including Chad Jen. That evening, Samo went home with a gloomy face. Chad Jen told Samo's parents that she was probably tired from rehearsing for the play. After hesitating and thinking, she finally told her parents that she had lost the class fund money almost. For 1,000 baht. Samo's dad was very generous and said that she could just borrow money from him and pay it back to the class first. But she didn't want to do that. She wanted to look for it one more time. The next day, before the play started, Samo accidentally saw the wallet in her bag, so a weight was lifted off her shoulders. Samo regained her cheerful mood and went on stage to perform. At first, everything went smoothly, but unfortunately, Samo tripped, causing everything to fall on the four of them. Everyone immediately took out their phones and took pictures. After that incident, Samo sat there crying, blaming herself for ruining everything. She thought Chad Jen would be there to comfort her, but he said harsh words that felt like rubbing salt in her wounds. She didn't understand why he was still concerned about her earlier, but when he saw Tao standing there, he said such cruel things to her again. Tao chased after Chad Jen and asked why he said such hurtful things to Samo. Chad Jen was too lazy to explain anything further and told Tao that if he wanted to comfort her, he should go comfort her. Tao still didn't understand Chad Jen's strange behavior, because it was clear that this morning Chad Jen was the one who found the wallet for Samo. Yet now he was hurting her. Meanwhile, Nu called Cal out to talk. He really didn't want Hong to bother her anymore. Cal didn't understand why Nu was talking to her about this, because the fact that he didn't like someone had nothing to do with her. So, Nu was officially being sulked at. Later, he went to find Chad Jen to ask for advice on how to make up with Cal. Right at this moment, Tao also brought Samo back to her doorstep. Seeing Chad Jen there, Samo waved him, but only received a cold response. During dinner, her parents noticed that Samo seemed sad today, so they asked why she was like that. Nu was about to mention the play incident today, but Chad Jen, who was next to him, kicked him to stop him. Chad Jen changed the subject to something else to prevent Samo's parents from knowing that she had messed up the play today. Samo's dad found out that he had won a trip to Phuket, but there were only 2 tickets, so he would go with her mom, and she had to stay home. A few days later, at the Christmas party held at school, classmates teased Samo by replaying the video from the play, making her embarrassed and leave. Tao saw this and took her to the swimming pool to help her relieve her stress. The two of them really enjoyed this time. Tao advised her not to pay attention to the bad words of her classmates, but to live her own life. While they were having fun, Tao's dad appeared and questioned them if they were dating. They both denied it. Tao's dad also told him to come talk to him later. The group of friends punished the person who released a video of the messed up play, which made Samo feel somewhat better. Because Samo's parents had gone on a trip, the whole group wanted to have a party at her house. The whole group came to Samo's house, and it was like a pigsty, so they all rolled up their sleeves and cleaned the house together for her. In the evening, the whole group had a party, ate until they were full, then watched fireworks together, and then chatted. Finally, they all fell asleep, leaving only Samo and Chad Jen tossing and turning, unable to sleep. The two of them went outside to talk. She asked him if the things he blamed her for ruining the play were really his thoughts. After Chad Jen's explanation, all the misunderstandings were resolved. Samo happily took a gift box out of her pocket and gave it to him. This was a New Year's gift she had for him. The next morning, Tao woke up early and went to swim practice. Samo opened her eyes and received a message that her mom was about to arrive home. The four of them quickly cleaned up the new house before Samo's parents got back. A new school year came, and all the students were excited for the new year. Lily's group approached Chadjen, suggesting they form a study group to prepare for exams, but he declined because he already had plans with his group of friends. Meanwhile, Tao was being questioned by his dad because he still hadn't chosen a university. It seemed like Tao's dad was putting a lot of pressure on him, having to both train for the national swim team and prepare for university entrance exams. Samo went home, and her mom told her that the teacher had called to talk about her academic performance. Her parents argued because they both said the other didn't care about her. Samo, frustrated, went up to her room. She texted Chadjen to ask what he was doing, seeing that he was studying. She was determined to bring out her math book and study along with him to keep up, but as soon as she saw the numbers, her eyes closed. The next day, her parents and the teacher were advising Samo on what major she wanted to study, but she still wasn't sure. She was still very uncertain. Later at school, during break time, Samo went out for a while and hadn't returned, so Tao went to find her. In his mind, he had a premonition that something bad had happened. Indeed, Tao's dad had come to see Samo, blaming her as the reason why Tao was hesitant and couldn't decide which school to choose. Tao appeared and explained to his dad that the fact that he hadn't decided which university to apply to had nothing to do with his friends. Tao was angry with his dad, so he told him that he would temporarily stop swimming practice. Originally, Tao's dad always put a lot of pressure on him about getting into the national team because, in the past, he was also a swimmer but had never made it to the national team. Now, he was using his own failure to burden his son. Samo arrived home and saw her parents discussing her academic issues. She didn't want to hear it anymore and ran upstairs. Texting Chadjen, she found out that he wanted to go to a concert soon, but it was 3,000 baht per ticket. Samo took out all her savings, but it still wasn't enough. She texted Kao to ask about finding a part-time job to earn money. On Tao's side, he did exactly as he said, stubbornly disobeying his dad. He went down to the pool just for show, without any intention of practicing. While everyone else was studying, Nu was playing games at the mall. Kao looked for him at home and didn't find him, and now she saw him playing games. She scolded him, asking why he was in the mood to play games during exam period. Since that was the case, she would play with him until they were bored. Kao told Nu that Samo wanted to earn extra money, but couldn't get a job anywhere. The two of them decided to pool their money to help Samo. Meanwhile, Tao's dad, after his son's stubbornness, softened his stance and persuaded him to return to practice, and this time he wouldn't forbid him from seeing his friends anymore. Tao, hearing this, felt more motivated. He promised his dad that this time he would try harder. The next day, Nu walked into the class with a bruised face, so he used his notebook to cover it up, but Kao still noticed. She asked him until he told her the reason why his face was like that. Nu stammered for a long time before confessing that he was robbed of all his money by some guys outside the school gate. That money included the money that Kao had given him yesterday to contribute to buying concert tickets for Samo. Kao, hearing this, definitely wouldn't let the guys who robbed Nu's money get away with it. At this time, Lily's group came to Chadjen to invite him to go to the concert with them, but he politely declined. Samo was sitting right above, so she heard the whole conversation of Lily inviting Chadjen to go to the concert. She was even more determined to buy tickets to go with him. After school, Kao went to meet the thugs who had robbed Nu's money. She showed off some basic skills, even smashing a glass bottle to threaten them. Even better, she also brought a weapon, revealing that it was just a fake. Just seeing it, the thugs were scared out of their minds. Seeing Kao's arrogance, the thugs were scared and returned all the money they had taken from Nu earlier. Meanwhile, Samo met with the teacher and her family to discuss her career path. If she got 3 out of 4 points on the exam, her chances of getting into university were very high. And in this second semester, all her subjects had to be at the maximum score. To motivate his daughter, Samo's dad rewarded her in advance with what she liked. Samo immediately mentioned concert tickets, and her dad agreed. That night, Samo asked Tao to take her to buy tickets, but they were completely sold out. While wandering around outside, she met a scalper selling tickets at a much higher price than the original. After some haggling, Samo successfully bought the tickets. She happily called Chadjen to say she had gotten 2 tickets. However, life isn't always a dream. When she gave the tickets to the staff, she discovered that the 2 tickets Samo had bought were fake, so they couldn't let the 2 of them in. Chad-Jen gently comforted Samo and then listened to music, with her on his phone outside. Although they couldn't see the actual concert, this scene was warm enough. Tao saw the 2 of them happy together, and he felt a little bit heartbroken. The next morning, the school organized a field trip to give students the opportunity to experience Thai traditions. Each group would have 3 people. Samo prayed that she wouldn't be in the same group as Lily, but the heavens never listened to her. In the end, she still had to be in the same group as her, but on the bright side, Chad-Jen was also in her group. During the tour, Lily tried everything to be with Chad-Jen. Samo wasn't having it. She immediately squeezed in between the 2 of them, so Lily wouldn't have a chance to get close to him. Afterward, everyone dressed up. Everyone had elegant, noble outfits, while Samo wore a slave's outfit, causing Lily's group to laugh and insult her. Everyone gathered to take pictures together. But for some reason, that guy told Samo, wearing the slave outfit, to take pictures for them. Chad-Jen, witnessing her being bullied, couldn't stand it and took her hand and led her away. Meanwhile, Kao and Nu accidentally met Hong. Because he didn't like him, Nu showed an unpleasant attitude. Lily searched everywhere for Chad-Jen and coincidentally met a reporter who asked Lily a few questions. But she didn't know how to answer, so she pushed Samo forward to take the burden. Unexpectedly, she answered very well and correctly. Even the teacher praised her profusely. Lily, seeing the teacher's praise, swarmed around and grabbed Samo's hand, telling the teacher that she was the one who had guided Samo from the beginning, which is why she answered so smoothly. Samo clearly showed her discomfort when Lily kept getting close to her, and on Kao's side, she was being cared for by Hong. This scene was accidentally seen by Nu. His heart suddenly felt uncomfortable, and then he fainted on the ground. Everyone shouted that someone had fainted. Nu was immediately taken to the hospital for emergency treatment. His dad also arrived. He shared with Nu's friends that he had a heart condition and had to take medication to prevent his heart from beating too fast. He also wanted Nu to stop going to school, but he said he wanted to play with his friends, so he still tried to go to school. After a few hours of emergency treatment, the doctor announced that Nu was back to normal but still hadn't woken up. It would probably take a long time for him to wake up. Friends still came to visit Nu from time to time, but he still hadn't woken up. Kao was the one who came most diligently. 6 weeks had passed, and Nu still showed no signs of waking up. On the wall were encouraging messages that the group of friends had left for Nu. On the day of the exam, Samo studied everywhere all the time. Even when her mom called her to eat, she didn't hear anything. She knew the exam was coming up, but wasn't this a bit too much? Chad-Jen then also took out his notebook with notes from 10th grade until now and gave it to her, teaching Samo how to do the problems. On the day the exam results came out, everyone was crowding around to check their scores, but Samo still couldn't find her name. Could it be that she had fallen off the list completely? Lily also came to check the scores. She was ranked second, just behind Chad-Jen. Even more surprising, Samo was ranked third, making the group of friends not believe their eyes. On the way home, Samo told Chad-Jen that she had decided to study medicine. From now on, the 2 of them would study together. Meanwhile, Kao came to the hospital to tell Nu everything that happened today. She also missed him very much, so he should wake up soon. Unexpectedly, Four Eyes woke up right after that. Everyone also came to visit him. Tao had just arrived to visit when he got kicked because, without his glasses, Nu mistook his best friend for Hong. After the doctor's instructions, Nu's dad agreed to let him go back to school. But Kao would be the one to watch over him to prevent incidents like this from happening again. The next morning, when he arrived at school, Nu's dad gave his son all kinds of instructions before he went back to school. Kao was also waiting to lead him into the classroom. She encouraged him to do his best so that he could graduate from high school and get into the university he wanted. The whole class looked at the standard scores of the universities together, not knowing if they could get in or not. On the day of the graduation exam, some OS parents prepared offerings, hoping the ancestors would carry their daughter through this university entrance exam. The exam time began. Everyone sat with their brains tense. During the exam, only Tao had an empty head, so he had to use his luck to decide his fate. The day the exam scores were announced arrived. The scores of the whole group of friends had improved a lot. The whole group was very happy that all their efforts had been rewarded. Just like that, it was the last day of school. Just arriving at school, Chad-Jen was already given flowers and had pictures stuck on him by many female students. Meanwhile, Tao also showed his affection for Samo. Kao and Four Eyes also stuck pictures on each other. In the classroom, Nizo shared her feelings about preparing to say goodbye to the whole class that had been together for the past 3 years. The whole group emotionally hugged her. The whole class happily signed each other's shirts and then took pictures together. While they were having fun, who knows what Chad-Jen encountered that made his face turn unpleasant. He told his friends to go ahead, while he went out to meet his mom. Chad-Jen's mom returned to Thailand again with the intention of taking her son to France with her. But when she found out that her son's score was among the highest in the country, she set an even harder condition for her son. If he wanted to stay in Thailand, he had to get into the #1 university in the country. Chad-Jen wasn't giving in either. He accepted the condition he set. It seemed like he was very confident in his academic abilities. On the way home, Samo asked Chad-Jen what his mom had come for, but he just answered vaguely that it was nothing. Time flies. The day of announcing the list of students admitted to university arrived. While Samo's friends in the group were all celebrating getting into their desired universities, Kao and Nu got into the same school. Tao, surprisingly, also got in. Only Samo was full of disappointment. She and her parents looked at the results together, but they couldn't find her name anywhere. Life really isn't a dream. Samo started to fall into despair. Her parents understood her current mood, so they went outside to let their daughter calm down. Everyone passed their exams and got into schools. Only she was left behind. Chad-Jen, meanwhile, went online to check the results. As expected, he got into the #1 university in the country. His mom said she wouldn't restrict him anymore and congratulated her talented son. Chad-Jen received a message in the group chat and hurriedly called Samo, but no one answered. He went directly to her house. Soa's parents told him everything. Going upstairs, he asked permission to enter her room. Soa's parents also listened in from outside. Chad-Jen asked her what she decided, whether she wanted to go to a private school or retake the exam. He then invited her to go for a walk to relieve stress, but she just cried the whole way. He advised her to try pursuing the arts because he saw she had a talent for it, and he would help her. After Chad-Jen's words of comfort and encouragement, Samo's mood improved a lot. She also thought more openly and decided to retake the exam next year for the arts department at the same school as Chad-Jen. Her parents were very happy to hear their daughter's decision. The next morning, she went to Chad-Jen's house, not knowing that today was his enrollment day. So, who would tutor her? That person was none other than Tao. But the two of them were equally bad at studying, so who knows if he would teach her correctly. Back home, Soa's parents talked to her, wanting her to have backup plans in case she didn't get into Chad-Jen's school. Her parents suggested that she could study abroad because they had acquaintances overseas, but Samo was very confident in her art studies and was sure she would pass this time. After school, Kao came to Samo's house. She confided in the female lead that today when she gave medicine to Nu, he acted shy because there were many people around. Because of that, Kao was angry with Nu. Then Kao asked the female lead about Chad-Jen tutoring her. When she found out that Tao had been tutoring Samo these days, Kao was shocked, not knowing if anything good would come of it. On Nu's side, he went to tell Chad-Jen everything and asked for advice on making up with Kao. The male lead recounted the time when Nu was unconscious for 6 weeks in the hospital, and it was Kao who was always by his side. Nu, hearing this, gradually understood everything. The next day, Samo went to the art room. While admiring the paintings, she saw a fruit basket, so she took a bite of an apple. Hearing a noise, she quickly put it back in its place. The art teacher seemed very passionate about his profession. He even said that the apple with the missing part was also art. The teacher was very impressed with Samo's painting. It was already very beautiful, just needing a little more practice to be considered perfect. Back home, she told Tao everything, that she had been praised by the teacher on the first day of learning. Their conversation was overheard by Chad-Jen, who was standing in the corner. He reminded the two of them to focus on studying. Later, meeting his dad, Tao was happy to learn that he had been accepted into the national swimming team. His dad was very proud of him. So from now on, Tao would be even busier and wouldn't have much time to tutor Samo. He went to Chad-Jen's house to ask, him to tutor Samo instead. From Tao's words, it was easy to see that he was very fond of the female lead. When asked about this by Chadjen, Tao didn't hesitate to admit that he liked the female lead. The whole group of friends, after hearing that Tao had become a national athlete, went out to eat together to celebrate. Nu and Kao also took this opportunity to make up. Unable to hide it anymore, Nu confessed his feelings to Kao. She didn't hesitate to agree. The whole group had a fun evening eating, drinking, and singing together. But for some reason, when it was time to go home, Tao's mood suddenly dropped. It turned out that he had just witnessed an intimate moment between the male and female leads. He was really jealous of Chadjen, but there was nothing he could do. The male lead carried Samo home, and she was acting all silly. In a quiet moment, the two of them looked at each other for a long time, exchanging longing gazes. In the blink of an eye, Samo had passed her university entrance exam, and this was her first day moving into the dorm. Her parents were also very sad to be apart from their daughter. In the car on the way, her dad told her that if she had a boyfriend, she had to bring him home to meet her parents first, and also not to go too far. Samo, hearing that, suddenly remembered the scene from the other day when she was drunk and leaned on the male lead's shoulder, almost kissing him. Luckily, a noise woke them up. Entering the dorm room, Samo greeted her roommates. Kao and a senior student intentionally teased a female lead by setting many bizarre rules. Samo suddenly felt estranged from this friend she once knew. The act came down and everyone laughed and joked again. Only then did Samo realize she had been trolled. After getting to know her roommates, Samo went to find Chadjen and expressed her desire to see his dorm room. Chadjen's male roommate discussed joining the welcome party for new students tonight, but the male lead refused because he still had homework to do. Samo persuaded him to go with her, and she would help him with his drawing homework, but he refused. That night, Chadjen and Samo went to the party together, but after sitting for a while, she felt a bit bored. Four Eyes, meanwhile, after saying goodnight to Kao, remembered the doctor telling him that he had to have surgery with a 50-50 success rate, but if it was successful, he would live a very long time. Hearing that, Nu agreed to have the surgery. His dad also went along with his son's wishes. On Samo's side, a new guy suddenly came in, bringing along a girl who had liked Chadjen for a long time. This girl kept staring at him, so Chadjen signaled for help from the female lead. So she pretended to have a stomachache, and he took her outside. After talking for a while, Chadjen expressed his desire to ask the female lead to draw his homework for him. The two of them were talking together when Kao appeared and dragged the female lead back to the dorm because it was getting late. The next morning, when Samo was drawing, everyone praised her beautiful drawings. A female student came in and said that there was going to be a school cheerleading event soon, and everyone had to participate. This girl was very impressed with Samo and came to get to know her. The two of them just chatted together until the cheerleading event. During that time, the female lead accidentally sneezed, and the strict senior student punished her by making her shout her name loudly in front of the whole class. Four Eyes, meanwhile, told Chadjen that he was going to have surgery, but hadn't told Kao because he was afraid she would worry like when he fainted. The next morning at the breakfast table, for some reason, Nu kept picking fights with Kao, causing her to get angry and leave. Samo immediately chased after Kao. Nu was just doing this on purpose. While Kao was angry, he would go have surgery, and she wouldn't suspect his disappearance. But when Chadjen asked Nu what if he was unlucky during the surgery, wouldn't he never be able to love again? Nu completely fell into a silent contemplation. Later, Chadjen and Samo were walking home. She gave him her drawings. Looking at the female lead's detailed drawings, Chadjen was very impressed by her skill. The distance between the two of them got closer and closer. It seemed like there would be a sweet, deadly kiss. But unexpectedly, the male lead told Samo that she had dark circles under her eyes. Talk about embarrassing. At this time, Samo's classmate came to find her to invite her to the cheerleading event. Samo didn't want to go, so she had to go along with her friend's wishes. What else could she do? Now, Nu went to the hospital to prepare for surgery. The male lead and Nu's dad also came here to encourage him. Coincidentally, Four Eyes met Hong here. Talk about a small world. Meanwhile, Im went to meet Samo privately, begging her to come to the cheerleading event, or the whole class would be punished. She finally agreed, but ironically, she wasn't wearing her name tag, so the whole class was punished by running around the tree. Before entering the operating room, Nu gave Cal's hair tie to his dad, asking him to give it to Cal if he couldn't. His dad outside was crying his eyes out because he was really afraid of the worst-case scenario happening to his son. On this side, Samo found out about Nu's surgery. She went to confront the male lead, asking why he didn't tell her about this. At this moment, Cal also appeared. She was even more shocked than the female lead. Nu's dad gave her the hair tie, making her remember the time she was angry with Nu and feel guilty. Chad-Jen comforted Cal, saying that the doctor operating on Nu was very good. Even though he was good, there would still be mistakes, so Cal's tears kept flowing. A long time later, the doctor announced the good news that the surgery was successful, but he was still under anesthesia, so it would take some time for him to wake up. Everyone, hearing this, felt somewhat relieved. When Cal was taking care of Four Eyes, Hong came over and invited her to eat, conveniently mentioning that he had already talked to the doctor. But when they got there, Cal only focused on asking about Nu's condition. Hong then said that he liked Cal, making her feel awkward and not knowing how to respond. The next day, during drawing class, the strict senior student loudly asked who had ruined the cheerleading banner. It was needed tonight, but now it was damaged, so the whole class had to start making a new one. All the instructions were given by Samo. In no time, the banner was completed perfectly. The senior student praised Samo in front of the whole class, making her very happy. At this time, Im, next to the female lead, whispered that she was the one who damaged the banner because Chad-Jen asked her to, so that the female lead could get credit. Samo, knowing this, was even happier. In the afternoon, the three of them went to the hospital to visit Nu. On the TV at this time, there was an interview with Tao. He wished Four Eyes good health and said that this medal was dedicated to Samo. The male lead didn't like hearing that, so he left. Samo knew what was going on, so she followed him to comfort him and thank him for the banner. Inside, Cal sat and talked about how she had rejected Hong's feelings because the person she liked now was Nu. Cal also regretted being angry with Nu before. Suddenly, at this moment, he woke up, making Cal happy. Turns out, he had been awake all this time, just pretending to sleep. He had heard everything from the beginning. On the side, the classmates were discussing Tao's interview. Everyone was curious about who the lucky girl named Samo was, that Tao mentioned and even dedicated a gold medal to. After completing his schedule, Tao also quickly returned to the country to visit his best friend. At this time, he accidentally met Samo there. Tao dedicated the gold medal to her because she had been the one who inspired him to strive. Samo happily accepted it. Chad-Jen witnessed the happy scene between Tao and the female lead. In his heart, he felt extremely uncomfortable. The next day, Samo started a conversation with Chad-Jen, asking him many things, but he remained silent. Even when Nu called, he only answered vaguely. Samo didn't know why Chad-Jen was acting like that. Asking him didn't get an answer, so she got angry and left. On the weekend, she went home to visit her parents. She remembered that the male lead was angry with her, so she asked her parents how her dad made up with her mom when he was angry. Hearing his daughter say that, Samo's dad thought she already had a boyfriend. Samo went up to her room and called her best friend for advice. But her friend suggested that there was something different like love between Chad-Jen and Samo, Samo thought. About it, and indeed lately, there had been many intimate moments between her and the male lead. It couldn't be considered love yet, but it could be considered ambiguous. She wondered if Chad-Jen liked her. The next day, Cal came to visit Four Eyes and said that when he was discharged, she would move in with him to take care of him. Nu was quite worried, afraid that their parents wouldn't agree, but Cal didn't think so, because the two of them were very innocent, and moreover, during this time, Nu was sick, and having someone by his side to take care of him would be better. After 2 days of racking her brain about why Chad-Jen was angry with her, the female lead still couldn't find an answer. She decided to meet him to ask him directly, but first, she had to change out of this uniform. On this side, Nu expressed his worries about Cal wanting to move in with him to take care of him because he was afraid of what others would think of his girl. But Chad-Jen advised him not to worry about other people's opinions. Cal already cared about him so much. Receiving a message from the female lead asking him to meet at the park, Chad-Jen left immediately. Seeing Samo today, she seemed a bit different. It was the first time she had worn a dress and put her hair up like this. Sumo accidentally tripped and fell, and there was another close moment between the two of them. Meanwhile, Tao took a flight to South Korea to prepare for his upcoming competition. He called Samo to tell her, but she didn't answer. Samo was busy confessing her feelings to Chadjen. After hearing the female lead's confession, Chadjen was a little surprised, but he had liked her for a long time, so of course, he wouldn't refuse. He took the initiative and kissed her, so the two of them officially became a couple. The next day, Nu's dad and Kao were packing his things to prepare for his discharge. Kao asked his dad about taking care of Nu because her dorm was also near his apartment, so it would be very convenient for her to take care of him. Nu's dad was also worried about people gossiping about Kao when she went to her boyfriend's house, but Kao said it wasn't a problem. Kao still hadn't clearly told Nu's dad that she would be moving in, so at first, she would probably have to sneak over there. Samo then told Kao that she and Chadjen were officially a couple. Kao gave her a tip. There was a legend about the magic bridge in the school, that if a couple rode a bicycle across it without their feet touching the ground, their love would be strong. Samo immediately invited the male lead to go there and ride a bike, but he didn't believe in such superstitious things. It was a matter between the two of them. What did it have to do with a bridge? However, he still went along with Samo's wishes and carried her across the bridge without their feet touching the ground. The path seemed a bit unstable, but in the end, they still succeeded without touching their feet to the ground. Samo was happy to have completed the task. Tao, meanwhile, was training. He expressed to his dad that he wanted to return to the country 2 days before the competition to get motivated. At first, his dad refused, but when he saw his son say that he would swim in 48 seconds, while the Asian record was 48.49 seconds, he agreed to let his son return home. At school, Samo and Chadjen were being affectionate with each other, and a classmate accidentally took a picture of them and posted it on the bulletin board as a memento. The two of them were so good looking together that every student who passed by and saw it had to admire them. Samo and Chadjen saw the picture. While Samo was happy because the picture was so cute, Chadjen wasn't happy because if others saw it, Samo would be gossiped about. Seeing the male lead's slightly grumpy attitude, Samo got angry with him, thinking that he was embarrassed to be posted on the school bulletin board. Chadjen comforted Samo for a long time before she calmed down. Tao, meanwhile, saw the picture of the male and female leads being affectionate, which was posted on Facebook. He called Samo to check on her. She also told him that she and Chadjen were dating, making Tao say congratulations on the outside, but inside, he was in turmoil. So the person he liked already had a boyfriend, the end of the world for him. On the day of Tao's competition, the group of friends gathered at a restaurant to watch him compete together. Before the match started, Tao was interviewed by a reporter. He only thanked his dad and didn't mention the group of friends like in previous times. Someone noticed that his attitude this time seemed strange. She confided in her friends that she had told Tao about dating Chadjen. And another thing, she wanted to move out and live with Chadjen. At first, Chadjen was a bit surprised, but it would be good to live with the person he loved. The next day, the female lead moved her things out of the dorm and said goodbye to her close friends. Then she moved to Chadjen's house. Her dad suddenly video called. Samo lied to her parents that she was living with Kao, so when her parents asked her to show them around the room, Chadjen had to hide to avoid being caught on camera. Meanwhile, at Nu's house, early in the morning, his dad came to visit, but Nu and Kao didn't avoid it anymore. This time, Nu admitted that the two of them were living together. Seeing Nu's dad's tense face, the two of them thought they were about to be separated, but unexpectedly his dad said, "That's great. It's even better to have someone who loves and cares for you by your side, Nu." He even teased that if Nu did anything wrong, call him, and he would take care of it, so Kao wouldn't have to suffer. That night, Chadjen couldn't sleep because of Samo's counting sheep. Moving to a new house was a bit strange, so she couldn't fall asleep. So Chadjen told her a story, and it worked very quickly. Samo fell into a deep sleep. Chadjen sat at the foot of the bed and fell asleep without realizing it. The group of 5 friends played together. 4 of them were in love, and only Tao was lonely and alone overseas. The next day, as soon as she opened her eyes, Samo's parents texted her that they were coming to visit today. So Samo quickly cleaned up all of Chadjen's male belongings and told him to go to Nu's house for a while. At the same time, She also called Cal to tell her to come to her room. Her parents were downstairs carrying a lot of things to give to their daughter. When they arrived, luckily, everything was on time. Samo had cleaned up everything, and Chad-Jen had already left. Having to lie like this was really inconvenient. So Nu and Four Eyes advised the two of them to tell their parents the truth, that they were in love and living together. However, Samo was afraid that her parents would be difficult and separate the two of them. A few days later, Samo's parents came to visit their daughter again. This time, Samo's mom noticed a pair of men's pants on the sofa, but she didn't say anything. Cal, seeing this, quickly grabbed the pants and threw them out the window. After lying for a while, they finally got away with it. Her parents no longer suspected anything. Lately, her parents had been visiting Samo quite often. They couldn't lie forever. Chad-Jen also felt uneasy about having to hide it all the time. So right at his graduation ceremony, Samo's parents also came to congratulate him. He confessed to her parents that he and their daughter were in love and moreover, were living together. Samo's dad was disappointed because all this time his daughter had been deceiving him, and he couldn't accept his daughter, who wasn't married, living in another man's house like that. Samo's mom chased after him to persuade him, but it had no effect on him at the moment. The next day, Chad-Jen brought a gift to apologize to Samo's parents for hiding things from them all this time. Although he loved her very much, when Samo's dad asked if the two of them, living together like this, would get married in the future, Chad-Jen was completely speechless. Because of the past trauma from his parents' broken marriage, Chad-Jen was always afraid whenever marriage was mentioned. Samo's dad, seeing that he didn't answer, became even angrier because he thought Chad-Jen didn't love his daughter, that his love couldn't secure her future. He angrily kicked him out, even throwing away the gift basket he had brought. So the next day, Samo's parents came to the apartment to pack her things and take her home. Even though she tried to persuade her parents, it was useless. That night, she didn't even come down for dinner, and he also had no appetite. Samo's mom comforted him by telling him about the old days when they were in love, how he was just like Samo, fighting against the whole world to love her. But he argued that those were two different cases because at that time he was really serious about his love, while Chad-Jen was not. Samo, in her room, was crying, remembering the time when her parents always supported all her decisions. Samo decided to write a letter, leave it in her room, and run away from home. Samo went to Chad-Jen's apartment. He comforted her, but he was very surprised to learn that Samo had run away to come here. However, above all, he felt more sorry for her. They decided to prove to her parents that they were really serious about this love. Meanwhile, Samo's parents read their daughter's letter. Her mom also comforted her dad a lot to calm him down. Time flies. Nu and Cal also graduated. Chad-Jen also had an internship at the hospital. After graduating, Nu applied for jobs but was always rejected. What made him feel insecure about himself was not only the pressure from work, but also the pressure from his dad, who kept urging him to get married to Cal quickly. Cal, hearing him confide, thought he wanted to be successful first before marrying her. The two of them disagreed and got angry with each other. The next day, Nu asked for advice from his best friend. He realized that he had to take good care of himself first, but only then could he take care of Cal. Nu also explained to Cal, and she understood him more. At the same time, this time, Nu decided not to apply for jobs anymore, but instead to start a gaming business. Cal was also very happy that he was more confident in himself. She was very supportive of him in this matter. Because Chad-Jen's internship at the hospital had been very busy lately, he didn't have much time for Samo. So she spent the whole evening writing down both of their schedules and then arranging reasonable dates during the week. Chad-Jen, when he arrived home and she acted like his wife, also sensed her feeling down during this time. So he directly asked Samo if she had been feeling down lately. Samo was also frank with him that it was true. As the distance between them grew, she felt smaller and smaller in his life. Sometimes she also wondered if her decision to argue with her parents and run away from home was really the right one. At work, Chad-Jen was being cared for by a woman named Dao, who bought him food and even sat down to talk with him. Lily accidentally passed by and saw the intimate scene between the two, so she took a picture and sent it to Samo. Meanwhile, Samo received the picture from Lily and felt uncomfortable. Even Cal and Nu felt angry. Afterward, Lily met Samo privately and added fuel to the fire, advising Samo to go to the hospital and witness the scene with her own eyes. In the evening, her mom asked Samo if she was coming home so she could prepare food, but she couldn't because she needed to draw for a presentation tomorrow. Turning off her phone, Samo fell into despair, having not seen Chad-Jen for days. She was immersed in negative thoughts again. The next day, she received a gift sent from her mom, and there was also a box to give to Chad-Jen. Samo immediately went to the hospital to give it to him in person, but she suddenly froze when she saw her boyfriend helping Dao pick up things. It wouldn't have been a problem if she hadn't overheard the conversation between Lily and a colleague. The two of them were gossiping about the love between Dao and Chad-Jen, causing Samo to misunderstand, feel disappointed, and leave immediately. Lately, Chad-Jen and Samo didn't even have time to see each other. They usually communicated with each other through sticky notes on the wall. The distance between them grew wider and wider. At school, Samo held an exhibition, and her painting was also hung there. Friends came to support and congratulate her. Tao also flew back from overseas to congratulate Samo. Because Tao was now a famous national athlete, he was recognized by many people who asked to take pictures with him. Later, Samo's parents also came to congratulate their daughter. This time, her dad wasn't too angry with her anymore. On the outside, he seemed awkward, but in reality, he loved his daughter very much. Samo's painting impressed a business owner. He expressed his admiration for her talent and even invited her to work for his company. The exhibition also ended without Chad-Jen's appearance. Samo called him, but there was no response. On the outside, Samo still acted normal, but her current feeling was very empty. That night, Samo sat waiting for Chad-Jen to come home. During this time, she really felt tired of her own love. Even on her most important day, he didn't show up. She felt like she was nothing in his world. Chad-Jen outside was also very tired of being in this state. Samo misunderstood his meaning, feeling that he was tired of being with her, so this time she decided to let go to free them both. That very night, Samo packed her luggage and returned to her mom's house. She was the one who initiated the breakup, but Samo was also very heartbroken. She had expected Chad-Jen to hold on, but he didn't. The next morning, Samo got ready and went to the interview with the man who had contacted her at the art exhibition the day before. Samo was really serious about the professional matter, but this man brushed it aside and invited her to drink alcohol. He kept saying strange things, and at the peak, he even touched Samo's hands and feet. Samo was so scared that she resisted and ran away. Outside, she tried to call Chad-Jen and Kao, but no one answered. She contacted Tao. Luckily, he picked up. A minute and a half later, Tao was there with Samo, seeing her in fear. He gently comforted her and took her home. At the hospital, Chad-Jen sat sadly in the hallway. The reason he had been tired lately was because he was thinking about the opportunity to go abroad for work. The head of the department advised him that opportunities only come once, so he should take advantage of it, but he was still hesitant because he had someone he loved here. Chad-Jen opened his phone. He was surprised to see 20 missed calls from Samo. He called back, but there was no response from the other side. At the company, that director was still recruiting. This time it was another beautiful young girl. He started to behave indecently with this girl, but luckily, Tao appeared in a black outfit covering his face and attacked him. Tao beat him so badly that he had no chance to fight back. At home, Samo's parents comforted their daughter after the recent shock. Her dad asked Samo where Chad-Jen was at this time. Why wasn't he there at such an important moment? Samo replied that Chad-Jen was no longer involved with her. Her dad blamed him for being a bad person, for not taking care of and protecting his daughter. At this time, outside, Chad-Jen had come, but hearing her dad say that, he didn't enter the house anymore. The next day, Chad-Jen told the head of the department that he had decided to go work in another province and then study cardiology. 3 years passed. Everyone had their own jobs. Chad-Jen was a cardiologist. Samo joined a graphic design company. Today was Tao's competition day. The whole family sat and cheered for him, but unfortunately, Tao only came in second place. Samo was so engrossed in watching that she was almost late for work. It was past 5 p.m., and Samo still hadn't finished her work and had to stay overtime. Unexpectedly, Tao appeared. Just this morning she saw him on TV competing, and now he was here. Afterward, the group of friends sat down to eat. New accidentally mentioned Chajen, that since he broke up with Samo, he had disappeared without a trace. He really lacked tact. Kao had to remind New to stop mentioning Chajen in front of Samo. The group of friends' jobs were also going quite smoothly. Kao said she had studied for a master's degree. Four Eyes was still developing games. Samo wanted to find a new job. Tao wanted to retire because he was tired of swimming. Actually, the reason Tao wanted to retire was to be closer to Samo. In the evening, Tao took Samo home. He gave her back her name tag and also his gold medal. She also gave him the cheerleading banner with the name Shark Tao on it. He then invited her to hang out tomorrow because they were both free. The next day, when the two of them were talking and confiding in each other, Samo received a message from her mom that her dad was in the hospital. Immediately, Tao took Samo to the hospital to check on her dad's condition. Here, she accidentally ran into Chajen. The two of them just greeted each other casually. Samo was about to submit her application to an orthopedic surgeon, but if she did that, she wouldn't be able to work until next month because the doctor was on a business trip abroad. But with his connections at the hospital, Chajen asked his colleague to operate on Samo's dad right away. In the evening, Samo was about to take a taxi home when Chajen appeared and offered her a ride. Even though she refused, he still persuaded her to get in his car and he would take her home. Samo finally agreed. She was about to sit in the back seat when she accidentally saw in the pile of messy things a heart-shaped model that she had given him before. He still kept it until now. In the car, Chajen asked her to get him his stomach medicine because he hadn't had time to eat lately, so his stomach ulcer had flared up again. Samo, hearing that, felt a little sorry for him. So when they got home, she invited him to stay for dinner and then leave. Samo went to prepare noodles and turned around to find that he had fallen asleep on the sofa. She got a blanket to cover him and even sat and watched him. Early the next morning, Samo woke up to find the dishes washed clean, along with a thank you note from Chajen. After that, Samo went to visit her dad. Chajen's colleague came to talk to her. She shared that he had a new girlfriend already. For some reason, even though she had broken up with Chajen when she heard the rumor that he had a new girlfriend, Samo felt a little uncomfortable. The surgery was successful, thanks in part to the male lead's help. So Soa's mom told her to bring some fruit to him to thank him for his enthusiastic help. Samo was very reluctant to go. After thanking Chajen, she quickly tried to leave, but he called her back, asking if she regretted breaking up with him. Samo remembered that this morning his colleague said he had a new girlfriend, so she coldly replied that she never regretted it. Chajen received a message from New saying that there was a celebration party tonight and inviting him to join. Chajen's female colleague saw this and also wanted to go with him. At the party, the female colleague attentively put food on Chajen's plate. Samo was no less attentive. She also put food on Tao's plate. It seemed like there was a bit of jealousy here. The party ended. After dropping everyone off at home, only Samo and Chajen were left in the car. He asked her if she was with Tao, right? Samo didn't answer his question, but instead asked him back if he was dating. That female colleague, right? Seeing his girl being jealous, Chajen suddenly felt happy inside. So when he saw her into the house, he took the initiative to kiss her. She didn't resist but responded enthusiastically. And again, suddenly holding her hand, and then even kissing her. The next morning, Samo remembered last night's kiss. She was very confused, so she called Chajen and said a bunch of things like they had broken up, and he already had a new girlfriend. Wasn't he afraid of being unfair to her when he kissed her? But the voice on the other end of the line was that of the female colleague. Samo was embarrassed and didn't know where to hide her face. The next day, Tao and Samo were driving to the hospital to visit her dad. He asked her if she still liked Chajen, and she replied that she no longer had feelings for him. When her dad came out, Tao scored points by helping him to bed. He was also good at talking, so her dad liked him very much and always wanted his daughter to get closer to him. When Chajen appeared, her dad was quite unpleasant and distant towards him, probably because of the hurt he had caused Samo, making her dad increasingly dislike his presence. The doctor in charge of the surgery came in to announce that Samo's dad's condition was better. In 2 weeks, he could come back for a checkup. Then she wanted to talk to Samo privately. Samo had imagined the scene of Chajen's female colleague attacking her because of what she said on the phone this morning. But no, she just wanted to clarify that the story of Chajen having a new girlfriend was false. She And here were just friends and colleagues. Because she saw that Chad Jen was too hung up on love, she helped to bring the two of them back together. Later, while waiting to get the medicine, Samo's parents noticed that she looked tired today, so they advised her to go home first. Samo obeyed and left, but her body was weak and she almost fell to the floor. Luckily, Chad Jen caught her. He offered to take her home, but she coldly refused. A second later, after taking a few steps, Samo fainted. Chad Jen caught her and took her to a room. Due to Samo's recent workload, she often stayed up late, leading to her body becoming weak. Meanwhile, Four Eyes, wanting to focus more on game development, resigned from his job. His boss was easygoing, so he approved his resignation immediately. Even better, his game software received feedback from another party who wanted him to complete it and buy it. Four Eyes was happy that after so much effort, he was finally rewarded. Samo at the hospital had also woken up, but still felt a bit dizzy. After a while, she could see Chad Jen's face clearly. She recounted the grievances she had suffered during the past time, even the time when she went for a job interview and was harassed by the director, but when she called him, no one answered. Chad Jen didn't realize she had suffered so much. He sincerely apologized to her for that and wanted a chance to be friends with Samo again, but she didn't say anything. Tao heard that Samo had fainted and came to see her. He was impatient, wanted her to quit her job there because he saw that she was too tired. Samo still didn't want to quit her job at the company because she needed money to help her parents. However, she also had a side job writing graphic novels. Then Tao took Samo's hand in front of the male lead to take her home. Chad Jen saw the two of them so happy and he felt a little uncomfortable. It's true. If you don't hold on, you lose it forever. The following nights, Samo diligently worked on her graphic novel, and Four Eyes also achieved his first success in his game programming career. Nu and Cal decided to get married, and the wedding invitations were also hand-delivered to their friends. Nu recounted to his friends how he proposed to Cal. At that time, he was taking pictures of his game, but he told her to open that square box. She thought his game had a ring, but in reality, Four Eyes was proposing to her. Cal had no reason to refuse, so she nodded in agreement. The two of them happily hugged each other. It was such a cheesy love story, and Samo also wished to have a love like that. So Tao said he could bring her flowers every day if she liked. Chad Jen didn't like hearing that, so he found an excuse to leave for work. A few days later, Samo's debut novel was also completed. She took it everywhere to find a publisher, but she was always rejected. Tao, meanwhile, was asked by people to choose a comic to do something with, but when he looked through them, none of them were to his liking. Tao then took Samo's drawings and showed them to everyone, and luckily, Samo's novel was approved. Sitting bored at the company, Samo suddenly received this good news. She quit her job at the company to focus on developing her own career. Then she went to thank Tao for helping her. He took the initiative to hold her hand, making her feel a little awkward. Accidentally, Samo's gaze fell on the wedding dress across the street. In her head, she briefly saw herself in that wedding dress, with the groom being Chad Jen. The next day, Cal went to try on wedding dresses and Samo went with her. Cal suggested that Samo could try on a wedding dress to see how she looked. While she was trying it on, Cal texted Tao and Nu texted Chad Jen to come. When she finished changing, Samo's beauty surprised everyone. Both Chad Jen and Tao praised her beauty. Tao took the initiative to hold Samo's hand and leave, making Chad Jen even imagine the scene of the two of them getting married. Seeing the two of them leaving like that, the male lead couldn't stop them because he no longer had any right to. Meanwhile, Tao took Samo to a place from the past to evoke memories from when he first met her and was captivated, and this place was where he used to help her relieve stress. Gathering all his courage, Tao knelt down and proposed to Samo. The next day, Chad Jen was advised by Lily to live true to his feelings, not to remain silent, or he would lose the person he loved. After that, he went to see Tao at the swimming pool. Tao wanted to challenge him. The two of them competed in swimming. It's unknown what the result was, but when he got home, Chad Jen opened the box that stored the memories with Samo from the past and cried. Later, Cal and Nu's wedding took place, and many high school friends also attended. Starting the main reception, the MC invited Tao to speak. Tao used this opportunity to bridge the gap between Chad Jen and Samo. Chad Jen recalled the old Memories from the beginning of his love for Samo to the handwritten letters she had written to him. He kept everything, only Samo was missing. It was a very long and touching speech, but Samo coldly left. Chad-Jen immediately chased after her. It was very difficult for him to persuade her to stay and listen to him. He asked her for a chance to get back together, but Samo refused because for the past 3 years, she had tried to forget all the memories of him. At this time, Tao called her and told her to open the recording he had sent. It turned out that while talking to Chad-Jen after swimming the other day, Tao had secretly recorded it. Samo had rejected Tao's proposal. In that recording, it explained why. On the day Samo was harassed by the director, Chad-Jen didn't answer his phone. It was because his patient had passed away at that time, so Chad-Jen couldn't think about anything else around him. He blamed himself for not being good enough, which led to that outcome. And then, in the recording, were feelings from the bottom of Chad-Jen's heart that Samo had never heard him express. The two of them hugged. Samo agreed to give Chad-Jen another chance to make amends. Tao, meanwhile, remembered the time he proposed to the female lead, and she refused because Samo saw their relationship as only friends. Tao felt a little regret, but above all, seeing the person he loved happy made him happy too. After agreeing to get back together with Chad-Jen, Samo also moved back to his place like before. Today, Chad-Jen specifically received a rather large package. He asked Samo to open it for him. Surprisingly, a bunch of balloons flew up, and moreover, a ring was attached. Chad-Jen took it, knelt down, and proposed to Samo. She happily agreed. Finally, after going through many ups and downs, they were once again together. Samo's novel was released to the public. Although not many people knew about it, she was still very happy to be doing what she loved. Secretly, this novel was about the love story of her and her group of 5 friends. The movie ended here. Thank you for watching our channel's movie review. See you in the next movies, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so that we have the motivation to make other movies. And if you want us to do more about any movie, leave a comment below. Goodbye and see you again